Picture this scenario because it could be you tomorrow morning. You wake up, check your phone, and see an emergency alert. The banking system is frozen, markets are closed, your savings account, your investment portfolio, your retirement fund, everything locked. Not because you did anything wrong, because the system collapsed overnight while you were sleeping. You rush to the ATM. The withdrawal limit is now $50 per day. The line wraps around the block. People are panicking. Some are crying. Others are yelling at bank employees who have no answers. You stand there realizing that the six-figure balance in your account might as well be monopoly money because you cannot access it. This is not a movie plot. This is not a conspiracy theory. This exact scenario has played out in multiple developed nations over the past 25 years. Countries with central banks. Countries with deposit insurance. Countries that looked stable until the day they were not. My name is Alex, and I spend way too much time studying the patterns that everyone else ignores until it is too late. Today we are going to examine the 5 types of assets that have consistently survived economic collapses throughout modern history, and we are going to dissect the assets that vanished completely, leaving their owners with nothing. This is not fear-mongering. This is pattern recognition, because if you understand what survives when everything else is burning, you can position yourself to be okay regardless of what happens next. Let me start with something that will make your financial advisor uncomfortable. Everything you have been told about safety is probably wrong. You have been taught that cash savings are secure. You have been taught that government bonds are risk-free. You have been taught that blue-chip stocks are stable. You have been taught that real estate always recovers. Every single one of these beliefs has been proven catastrophically wrong multiple times in living memory. The myth of safety is built on stability bias. We assume the world we grew up in is permanent. It feels solid because it has been solid for our entire lives. But that feeling is an illusion. Let me show you how fast things can fall apart. Venezuela's inflation exceeded 1,000,000% from 2013 to 2018. 1,000,000%. If you had $100,000 in a Venezuelan account in 2013, by 2018 that money could not buy you lunch. Zimbabwe saw inflation hit 98% per day during peak hyperinflation per day. Prices doubled every 24 hours. These were not war zones. These were countries with governments and central banks and all the institutions we associate with stability, and their currencies collapsed anyway. But here is what gets interesting. While paper currencies became worthless, while bank accounts were frozen, while government bonds defaulted, certain assets not only survived, they thrived. That is what we need to understand. Let me walk you through the graveyard first. Let me show you what went to zero. Cash savings destroyed in every hyperinflation event in modern history. In Weimar Germany, people burned currency in their stoves because it was cheaper than buying firewood. The money was literally worth less than the paper it was printed on. The mechanism is simple. Governments print money to cover their debts, supply increases, value per unit decreases, basic economics at a pace that destroys lives. Government bonds wiped out when countries default. Argentina defaulted on $93 billion in 2001. Greece defaulted. Russia defaulted. Dozens of nations have defaulted on sovereign debt over the past century. Bondholders got pennies on the dollar or nothing at all. Company stocks evaporated overnight. Lehman Brothers traded at $86 per share in 2007. By 2009, worthless. The company filed for bankruptcy with over $600 billion in assets. It simply vanished. Bear Stearns sold for $2 per share after trading at $133. Shareholders lost 98% overnight. Enron, WorldCom. These were not small companies. These were industry titans that collapsed so fast their own employees did not see it coming. Real estate in wrong locations crushed. Detroit median home prices dropped 82% from 2006 to 2008. A $200,000 house became worth $36,000. Over 50 years, Detroit's owner-occupied homes fell from $900,000 to $171,000. Entire neighborhoods abandoned. Homes worthless not because structures collapsed, but because economic foundations disappeared. This is reality. Safety is not about comfort. Safety is about what survives when everything else falls apart. Now let me show you what survives. The 5 assets that have consistently protected wealth through every major collapse. Asset number 1. Physical gold. I know the objections. Gold does not produce income. Gold just sits there, and you are absolutely right. Gold sits there. That is exactly why it works. Weimar Germany. January 1919. 1 ounce of gold cost 170 marks. November 1923. Less than 5 years later, That same ounce cost 87 trillion marks. Not million, not billion, trillion. If you held paper marks, you starved. If you held gold, you survived. Gold price did not rise because gold became more valuable. It rose because marks became worthless. Gold maintained purchasing power. A loaf of bread cost roughly the same gold throughout the entire hyperinflation, but exponentially more marks every day. Research shows gold increased in value 1.8 times faster than the inflation rate itself, not just preserving wealth, actually gaining purchasing power while everything else collapsed. Why does gold work? 3 reasons. First, governments cannot print it. Finite supply in the world. Mining increases supply roughly 1% annually. That is it. No government can create more gold out of thin air. Second, universally recognized. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. Every culture understands its value. You can exchange gold for local currency virtually anywhere on Earth. Third, no counterparty required. When you own physical gold, you own it. Not a promise, not a claim. The actual metal. If banking systems collapse, your gold still exists. The data is overwhelming. During every currency crisis in modern history, physical gold maintained purchasing power when paper currencies failed. But critical detail, physical gold, not paper gold, not ETFs, not certificates. Physical metal you can hold. When systems break, only physical assets survive. Paper promises go to zero with everything else. Asset number 2, productive land. Not any land. Not speculative land, productive land, land that grows food, land that produces resources, land that generates value independent of financial systems. During economic collapse, food prices explode. Farmers who owned their land became the wealthiest people during hyperinflation. Why? They produced what everyone needed and could demand payment in real value, not worthless paper. In Weimar Germany, farmers refused marks for produce. They only traded for gold, silver, or valuable goods. People who owned productive farmland maintained wealth. People with cash or bonds starved. Same pattern in every collapse. Agricultural land that produced food maintained value because output had intrinsic worth. But here is the distinction. Speculative real estate collapses. Productive real estate survives. Detroit real estate was speculative, dependent entirely on automotive industry health. When that collapsed, real estate became worthless. But farmland in Iowa producing corn, timberland in Oregon growing trees, these maintained value even during the Great Depression because they produced something the world needed regardless of conditions. The key is production. Land must generate value. If it just sits hoping to appreciate, it is speculation, not protection. Speculation goes to zero during collapse. Production survives. Governments generally do not confiscate productive agricultural land even during extreme crises. They need food production to continue. Even dictatorships understand this. Property rights for productive land tend to survive when other rights collapse. Asset number 3, essential skills. This is the asset nobody talks about because it cannot be bought or sold. It must be developed, but it might be the most important on this list. During economic collapse, formal employment disappears. Companies shut down. Government jobs evaporate. Traditional careers become death sentences. But people with essential skills become invaluable. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects electrician employment will grow 9% from 2020 to 2030. During downturns, that growth accelerates. When systems break, people need electricians. When infrastructure fails, people need plumbers. When supply chains collapse, people need plumbers. When supply chains collapse, people need mechanics. Skilled tradespeople already command premium wages. Plumbers in Seattle earning over $200,000 per year. Electrician demand up 130% compared to pre-pandemic levels. Concrete masons up 904%. These are not Wall Street salaries. These are earnings of people with skills that cannot be outsourced, automated, or replaced by financial engineering. During the Great Depression, doctors who worked for food stayed fed. Carpenters who repaired homes always had work. Blacksmiths who fixed tools were worth more than bankers. Pattern is consistent across every crisis. Essential skills become currency when paper currency fails. Skills are portable. If you need to leave your country, you take skills with you. Cannot pack a house in a suitcase. Cannot smuggle gold bars easily, but you can walk across a border with nothing but clothes on your back, and if you are a skilled tradesperson, you start earning immediately. Skills cannot be confiscated. Governments can seize property, they can freeze accounts, they can tax investments, but they cannot take knowledge. Ability to do valuable work is the one asset that survives every form of intervention. Skills increase in value during crisis. When everything collapses, people who can actually do useful things become more valuable, not less. World always needs plumbers, always needs electricians, always needs people who can grow food and fix machines and heal injuries. Most resilient people in any collapse are those who can create value with their hands and minds independent of financial systems. Asset number 4. Foreign currency reserves. Geographic diversification applied to money. Simple idea. If your home currency collapses, having stable foreign currency saves you. Look at any currency crisis. People with access to US dollars or Swiss francs survived. Those with only local currency did not. Exchange rates collapse overnight. Your savings in local currency become worth a fraction. Savings in hard foreign currency maintain value. But here is the key. You cannot wait until crisis hits to acquire foreign currency. By then, capital controls are already in place. Government freezes foreign exchange. You cannot get dollars when you need them most. Strategy requires advanced planning. Establish foreign currency holdings before crisis. Foreign bank accounts in stable jurisdictions. Physical cash in multiple currencies. Resources denominated in currencies from stable countries with strong institutions. Switzerland maintained stability through 2 world wars and multiple financial crises. Swiss franc has been safe haven for over a century. US dollar remains global reserve currency despite problems. These provide insurance against local collapse. Having all wealth in one currency is concentration risk. When that currency fails, you fail with it. Spreading holdings across multiple currencies from multiple jurisdictions provides resilience. Asset number 5. Social capital and networks. Most underrated asset class in existence. When systems collapse, relationships become everything. Research on disaster recovery shows individuals and communities with strong social networks recover faster than those without. Networks provide access to information, resources, and opportunities that do not exist in formal markets. Look at any crisis. People with strong community connections survive better than isolated individuals. Neighbors share food. Extended families pool resources. Business networks provide informal credit when banks shut down. People who invested in relationships have something to fall back on when systems fail. During Hurricane Katrina, survival rates correlated strongly with social network strength. During 2008 financial crisis, people with strong professional networks found employment faster. During COVID, communities with high cohesion weathered lockdowns better than fragmented communities. Crisis breaks formal systems we rely on. Banks close, markets fail, supply chains shatter, but human relationships persist. If you have a strong network of people who trust you, those relationships provide mutual support when no other support exists. Data shows communities with high social capital experience better outcomes during disasters. They evacuate more effectively, recover more quickly, maintain lower violence during breakdown. Social cohesion is protective against systemic collapse, but social capital takes time to build. Cannot create strong network overnight, cannot establish trust in crisis. These are investments made long before needed. People who survive collapse invested in relationships when times were good, not when times got bad. Now let me tie this together. What makes an asset survive collapse? 5 characteristics all surviving assets share. Tangibility. Asset must be real. Physical gold. Real land. Actual skills. Cannot be printed away or declared worthless by decree. Paper promises fail. Real assets persist. Utility. Asset must have intrinsic use. Gold valued for 5,000 years. Productive land grows food. Skills create value. These matter regardless of financial system health. Assets with utility survive. Speculation does not. Scarcity. Asset must be limited in supply. Gold cannot be printed. Land cannot be created. Skills take time to develop. If supply can increase arbitrarily, asset collapses when system does. Fixed supply protects value. Portability or inalienability. Asset must be portable or impossible to take. Gold can be moved. Skills cannot be confiscated. Both provide protection for different reasons. Recognition. Asset must be universally valued. Everyone understands gold. Everyone needs food. Everyone requires essential services. If wealth is stored in something with value only within specific system, that wealth disappears when system fails. Now the traps. What looks safe but absolutely is not. Cryptocurrency has not provided protection during actual collapses. Theory is beautiful. decentralized money, no government control, fixed supply. But during crisis, problems emerge. Infrastructure dependency. Crypto requires electricity and internet. During collapse, both become unreliable. If you cannot access network, your crypto is worthless regardless of theoretical value. Regulatory risk. Desperate governments crack down hard, block exchanges, criminalize usage, implement capital controls. When hammer falls, crypto users become targets. Complexity barrier. During crisis, people revert to what they know. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. Everyone understands it. Crypto requires technical knowledge average person lacks. Volatility. Collapse demands stable stores of value. Crypto prices swing wildly even in stable conditions. During crisis, volatility increases. When you need to buy food and crypto lost 30% since yesterday, you have a problem. ETFs and paper assets are not the same as physical assets. Gold ETF is not gold. It is a promise that someone will give you gold. These distinctions matter during collapse. When Lehman Brothers failed, entire chain of counterparties collapsed. People who thought they owned gold through Lehman vehicles discovered they owned nothing. They had claim on bankrupt entity. Claim became worthless. This is counterparty risk. Whenever you hold financial instrument rather than physical asset, you rely on someone else to honor promise. During normal times, works fine. During collapse, counterparties fail. Chain breaks. Paper becomes worthless. Single country focus is concentration risk applied to geography. If 100% of wealth in one country, you are betting that country remains stable. That bet fails regularly throughout history. Concentration in single jurisdiction is highest risk factor for wealth destruction during collapse. Does not mean zero local assets, means not 100% local assets. Proper strategy is international diversification. Some assets in home country, some in stable foreign jurisdictions, some in physical form that can move if needed. Digital-only wealth is vulnerable. Brokerage account digital, bank account digital, crypto wallet digital. None exist in physical form, all ones and zeros in computer system. What happens when computers stop working? When network goes down? When government flips switch and access disappears? Not hypothetical. Greece implemented capital controls during crisis. Citizens could only withdraw 60 euros per day from ATMs. Digital wealth trapped. Cyprus seized money directly from digital accounts. Depositors woke to find balances reduced by government decree. Solution is balance. Maintain significant physical assets alongside digital holdings. Gold coins in safe. Physical cash in multiple currencies. Real estate you own and live on. Skills you developed. These create resilience digital wealth alone cannot provide. Let me be clear. I am not suggesting liquidate everything tomorrow. That would be as foolish as doing nothing. What I am suggesting is framework. Way of thinking about wealth that acknowledges possibility of system failure and plans accordingly. Proper strategy has 5 parts. First, maintain liquidity in stable currencies. Emergency funds in US dollars or other hard currencies. 3 to 6 months expenses minimum. 12 months if you can afford it. Second, allocate meaningful percentage to physical precious metals. 10 to 20% of investable assets is reasonable range. Insurance against currency collapse. Store securely. Control access personally. Third, invest in productive real assets. Land that generates income. Businesses producing essential goods or services. Infrastructure creating value independent of financial markets. Assets maintain worth because they produce what people need. Fourth, develop valuable skills. Learn something useful. Plumbing, electrical work, carpentry, medical skills, agricultural knowledge, any skill creating value for humans. Investment in yourself that cannot be taxed away or confiscated or destroyed by inflation. Fifth, build and maintain social networks. Invest in relationships. Help others. Create mutual obligations. Build trust within community. Be the kind of person others want to cooperate with. When systems fail, relationships become most valuable asset. This is not about hiding in bunker waiting for apocalypse. This is about building resilience, creating wealth structure that survives shocks, positioning yourself to weather storms others cannot. Goal is not predicting exact timing or nature of next crisis. Goal is being positioned such that you are okay regardless of what happens. If everything stays stable, you are fine. If things collapse, you are also fine. That is anti-fragility. History teaches us collapses happen. They happen regularly. They happen to modern countries with sophisticated institutions. They happen to places that seem stable until they are not. When they happen, vast majority lose everything because they never prepared. But some people see it coming, some position themselves correctly, some understand that safety is not about following conventional wisdom, it is about understanding dynamics of wealth preservation during crisis. Those people survive, often thrive, not because they were lucky, because they understood patterns and acted before crisis hit. You now understand those patterns. You know what survives and what does not. You know the 5 asset classes proven across multiple collapses. You know the traps that look safe but lead to destruction. Question is, what you will do with this knowledge. Will you assume stability continues forever and ignore lessons of history? Or will you take action to protect yourself and your family from scenario that has played out dozens of times and will play out dozens more? Not rhetorical question, most important financial decision you will make. Because next collapse is not if, it is when, and when it comes, you will either be one of people who prepared or one standing in that bank line watching life savings disappear. Choose wisely.